If you're growing in a grow room or a grow tent, moisture can get trapped in your grow, leading to a whole series of problems that can ruin your whole harvest. Today, we're going to be talking about what those problems are and, more importantly, how to avoid them. But before we do, this video is brought to you by Real Growers Grow Dots, the absolute easiest way to feed your plants. You mix grow dots in once at the beginning of your grow, and they feed your plants all the way to harvest. Check out more over at realgrowers.com. And come on, let's learn something, Hi C. Let's get into it.
All right, man. So I hear you mention this abbreviation, these three letters, VPD. So what is VPD and why does it matter to my plants?
Vapor pressure deficit is the fancy word if you go into biology class. Okay. But it's just really temperature and humidity, how temperature and humidity mix. And plants are living just like people. We understand when it's really humid and hot, how hard it is for us to breathe, or how hard it is to do anything, to really perform. When it's super dry and it's hot, man, you drink and it just goes right through you. It's hard to perform as well. There is a sweet spot, right? Perfect training zone for temperature and humidity. Same thing with plants.
Okay, so let's get into it. And you were saying this isn't like an exact, it has to be this temperature or this percentage, but it's kind of like a sweet spot, a range of where we're trying to go.
Yeah, there are charts you can look at, and they'll have exact numbers. Even all the charts, they call them VPD charts. There's different ones for veg. There's different ones for flowering. They have a range, though. The green, you'll see there's a bright green, which is the ideal range. There's a light green, which is pretty darn close. You just want to be in that pretty darn close range as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, cool. And you were talking about, just a second ago, you were talking about like if you're training as an athlete, I'm thinking about like my pores, not being able to get rid of sweat.
Sure.
Do plants have something similar?
Absolutely. Plants work by osmotic pressure, meaning they got little holes in the leaves called stomata that can open and close. That's how they regulate their moisture content. So if there is lack of moisture where it's super dry out and it is just pulling nutrients and they're just going right out the open stomatas, it's just losing moisture too fast. If the stomatas are closed, well, there's no osmotic pressure. They're closed, so there's nothing sucking those nutrients and that moisture up the plant.
Okay, so those pores are affected by the humidity. Are they also affected by the temperature?
Yeah, temperature and humidity both affect the stomata independently.
Okay, and so I'm thinking like going back to the analogy of a sports person working out and training. If I can't breathe good and if I'm not perspiring properly,
sure,
it's going to make it miserable for me.
Absolutely.
Same thing with my plants?
Yeah. And what's going to happen specifically with the plants, they're going to close that stomata down. If they can't hold on to that moisture anymore, they're going to close that stomata, and that's going to slow down or stop the osmotic pressure.
Okay, and what if there's just, you mentioned it's a sealed environment. I'm dumping water in my media, and it's going through the plants, and then it's getting captured in the air, and then that leads to like excess humidity in the air.
Sure. So that is the same thing. They call it osmotic pressure. Just a really simple way is you're getting plant. It's not magic that the water's going from the roots up to the plant material. It's doing that because the plant opens the stomata and it creates a little bit of a vacuum for it to come on up. It has to be able to release that. You know, if you have I guess I'll use a car with an exhaust pipe and you plug that exhaust, it's going to mess everything up, you know? So if those stomatas are closed, then there's no osmotic pressure. There's no start of the osmotic pressure to suck up the nutrients.
All right, so if it's too humid in your grow, you've got water in there, obviously, you're watering your plants. Some of that turns into like air water.
Yeah, and think about it, heavy. You know, of course it's going to be heavier because it's got water in that air. Now it's all over the room. It's laying on your leaves. Your leaves are they're looking for a little vacuum. They're looking to open those stomata, have a little bit of vacuum and be able to suck up that water and out the stomata. If they're just loaded, if there's water all in the air right there, it sure makes it inefficient for it to do that. And now you've got a bunch of water laying on the leaf. Molds, all that kind of stuff, bud rot, all that can happen.
Okay, so too much humidity can lead to mold, bud rot, pests, you said?
Yeah, temperature as well, man. Pests love the higher the temperature, the faster they reproduce.
Okay, and it also slows down the natural process that the plant is trying to do by pulling the water and the nutrient through the soil and up and out of the leaves.
Mixing it with the CO2, building itself that way. Yeah, it can't do that if it's not getting the hydrogen and releasing the oxygen from the H2O.
So by not having the proper temperature and the proper humidity, you're just asking for a bunch of problems.
Yeah, and it's going to slow your growth. Not only when you don't have right temperature and humidity, it allows the bugs to grow. It allows mold and mildews to start up. It makes ideal environment for them. But also it just slows your plants down. And the more I talk to people, really great growers, they tell me, man, the secret is to get your plants growing and never let them slow down. Never let them get weak.
Yeah, because you're on a time period. You've got a certain amount of weeks here and a certain amount of weeks there, and you want them performing maximum the whole way through.
Yes, this has nothing to do with people, okay? But in nature, nature attacks the weak, okay? So you've got, if you grow strong plants that are filled, not overly filled with nutrient, but properly filled with nutrient, ready to defend themselves against bugs, they're just hardy plants. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, so what am I looking for? You mentioned VPD. The target ideal VPD is different in veg than it is in flower. So explain, what am I looking for in veg as far as the temperature and the percent of humidity that I want?
And this is one of those things, if you want to go take a look, Google VPD. There's a Pulse is a great source. There's multiple ones. There's VPD for clones. There's VPD for veg. There's VPD for flowering. It can be a little bit difficult to hit all of those if you just have a tent in a room. So there's some things that will work. Okay, so room temperature is about 77 degrees, 75 degrees. You will hear people that don't like to run temperatures high. Terpenes can start volatilizing off at about 70 degrees, but not so much, man. Most of them in the 80s, 90s, 100 degrees, they really start volatilizing off. Granted, I wouldn't want to grow over 80 degrees.
Okay, so you jumped ahead. Specifically for veg, what am I looking for? Because terpenes, I don't need to worry about that in veg.
No, man, I'm going to go with low 70s and then low 70s humidity, somewhere around there. You can go a little bit lower if you want, but low 70s, low 70% humidity. You're going to be in that green range.
Okay. And then you mentioned terpenes. So obviously when I flip to flower, I've got some more things to consider. What am I aiming for temperature and humidity when I'm in flower?
You want to go lower. So for me, I'll try to, 65, 68 degrees. And then, man, if I can get it into the 40s or 50s, that would be ideal.
40s or 50s for humidity?
Percent humidity, yeah. Okay. So I'm really looking to lower that down. For me, it is also about bud rot. But, just keeping the humidity down.
Okay, and what are some ways that we can actually do this? Because not everybody's growing in like a pristine commercial environment. If I'm growing in a room, a spare room in my house in a grow tent, what are some things that I can do to actually reach those goals?
And it's tough in a small grow tent. It's tough to regulate the temperature and humidity inside the tent. AC Infinity has Controller 69, and that's the first thing that I've seen that regulates temperature and humidity inside the tent. But even so, you need to pull from another room. So it would call it the lung room, the room that the tent is breathing in. And so the best scenario is you try to make the lung room as close to those parameters as possible. You can put a dehumidifier in a lung room, just even a window unit or a small air conditioner. Air conditioners pull out humidity as well.
Okay, so the idea is control the environment that the grow tent is actually in.
Sure.
So control the room, and then if the grow tent gets too hot from the lights or too moist from the water, then you said there's a Controller 69.
The AC Infinity has one. It's just a little box that sits on the corner of the tent. I don't know if anybody else is making one. It's a big deal.
it's hooked up to the exhaust fan, so when it gets too moist.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
But that's me. That's how I handle my VPD. It's very important for me to keep those stomata open and keep that osmotic pressure going and those plants just sucking up that water and nutrients and making new plant material. They're combining with that CO2 and building new plant material. The more I can have that happen during the day, the better we're going to be. But what about you? How do y'all handle your VPD? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending to you.